have 7:45 right now.
Start at 7. Oh, I do. So we just got to remind Steve he gets a little bit.
I'm George.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we probably shouldn't be pressing. I guess Steve's not had his breakfast yet, so.
Well, I think Steve's going to realize that from me.
Steve has to comment.
There's 2 thank you notes for saying school gives me that
Was that Princess? Yeah, I have it.
I'm sorry. That's what happens when you don't look up your phone. It's me and you, babe.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry about the double call. We're going to start this morning with America the Beautiful.
Beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Okay, Sue Strader passed along to me a nice text message last night. She's got the sniffles, and she did not want to come into Rotary today. So she sent me her invocation. Dear Lord, we give you thanks for the promise of spring and the lessons we learn from changing seasons. Each day brings new challenges and opportunities to practice the 4-way test. Let our actions and words in this meeting build up and edify each other. As we go through this week, keep us alert to the needs of others. Bless the work of Rotarians everywhere. Let us remember that when we serve others, we serve you. Bless and watch over those absent from us today. We thank you for the food that was placed before us and for our fellowship together. Amen. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I threw you off a little bit there, didn't I? Hey, Megan, let's jump right in and guess. See what we have.
Back up. All right, so Cindy and I are actually in a tag team this morning on our guests. So I'm going to introduce our guest, Mike Gibson. He's a former Rotarian. Hey, Mike.
I just want to inject real quick. Mike, Rick is our membership chair, and he has applications in hand at all times. I don't know if you guys actually met.
No. But the bar is higher now than when mine used to be.
It really is. So, again, I'm just talking about the application process. That's all.
Thanks for the invitation.
I didn't want, if you were going to talk, I didn't want to. Anyway.
Should I keep talking?
I'd like to introduce everybody. This is Carrington Smith. Carrington is going to be the president of our new Lehigh Valley Passport Club. It is happening. Our club is the sponsor. Mark your calendars, May 19th, we are actually chartering a brand new club. It will encompass the whole Lehigh Valley. And April 16th, we'll be having another mixer. So you're gonna be seeing Carrington. I've asked him to start coming to our meetings and board meetings so he can see our great club and how it operates.
Morning.
May 19th, we haven't figured out yet. Okay, everybody will be invited, so we want some support.
Well, thanks.
Next to this is Gretchen. I met Gretchen through, she's the wife of one of Chris's Engineers Without Borders colleague, and we chatted for quite a while at a picnic. And of course, Rotary came up, so we welcome Gretchen and hope to see you soon. She works at St. Luke's in Physician Relations.
Welcome, guys. You're getting into something great, and it continues to be great. Okay, couple announcements real quick. Makeups, YouTube. Just to make sure everybody understands, you can watch any meeting as a makeup. So you can go back, you can go to YouTube, type in Emmaus Rotary, subscribe to it, and if you missed last week, you can go and see a video from 2 years ago as a makeup. Just make sure it's one that you weren't actually attending at the meeting. But there's no 2 week before or 2 week after rule with the YouTubes, okay? Because we've been having some issues getting them uploaded quickly. There's a few people that do it in backup, so there's still some logistics at play with that. Any other questions on makeups, just please email me. Also, it's been brought to my attention that there have been people on their cell phones during presentations at Rotary. This is just a kind message that out of respect to the people that are coming here to present to us, please don't be on your cell phones unless it's some kind of an emergency during the presentations. Thanks for that. So I haven't had anybody jump out of their chair yet to be the committee duties committee chair. Okay, great. And also Camp Nidegg. Larry, how are you doing with that? Is anybody?
I presented to the Interact Club last week. I think they have 11 juniors. With the board's permission, I told them that we would underwrite the attendance of all 11 of them if they want to go. And I think we have 4 or 5 more.
Okay, and how's the apprenticeship going of that committee?
There is no apprenticeship yet. But
Okay.
I will say that anybody who wants to be the Camp Nidegg coordinator, you would enjoy it, especially if you have kids who are approaching the age of attending Emmaus High School, because it automatically will get you involved with Interact, and it'll just be a lot of fun. So that would be the ideal person to do this.
I got a great candidate. We'll talk in a bit. I won't necessarily point a finger at him right now, Craig. Okay, so beef and beer. Beef and beer's coming up. Everybody's been preparing for that. I think ticket sales are going well, but we all need support on that. So keep going on that and reach out to a committee member. Bryce Ruggieri is our committee chair. This is also the last month to register for the district conference, 7430 King of Prussia at Valley Forge Resort from the 24th to 26th. Just a show of hands again, who's going? Oh, that's fantastic, guys. That's great. Let's show our support. Herb showed us a lot of support last year, so let's get him back. And it's pretty cool stuff. And also, the deadline to register for the upcoming RLI down at the Sales University is coming up on March 20th. That's March 28th at the Sales University. Peter's wise saying of the week. This guy is on a roll, man. He is sending me emails weekly, which is fantastic. So I get a choice of what I pull out of about 30-some sayings that he's writing down. This one jumped out at me. Are you on the right track? And in the same category, wrong desires and motives get you in trouble. So I really dig what he's sending me, man. I mean, if you need a lift up every week, you know, he's taking the time out to send me this stuff. I'm super appreciative of it. All right, how about some announcements from the floor this morning? Jim.
So the district says 2 people gave money to the foundation, and I'm the name of the Emmaus Rotary Club, but nobody seems to know who they are. One is Saijan Kumar, S-A-I-J-A-N Kumar. Does anybody know who that is? The other is Kailash Makhija, K-A-I-L-A-S-H, M-A-K-H-I-J-A. Okay. Oh, the other thing is that Joanne Smith called several of us, and she's ill today, and didn't want to spread anything, so she's not here.
Thanks, Jim. Richard?
So there's 4 cards going around. There's 2 thank you cards, one for St. Anne's for getting 279 boxes of cereal for helping us on Thursdays after this for the Feed Lincoln and Jefferson kids. The second one is for Sarah Raynock for helping us do that with St. Anne's. Marge Gansitz and Dale Drees are the cards for Get Well Soon, so everybody knows.
Cheech?
On behalf of the Community Services Committee, they want you to keep in mind that April 18th is the cleanup day in Emmaus, and that they will be circulating volunteer lists at the next meeting.
Okay, anyone else? All right, so just a little input here on the coronavirus. Thanks for venturing out today. Everybody has a different opinion on what's happening with this. What I will tell you is this. As Rotary, we're going to continue to move forward with our meetings and our functions until I'm told that I'm not allowed to. I feel that if everyone is practicing good health standards, then we're the people that need to be on the ground in the event that there needs to be service in the community. So I'm going to keep it going, but I'm not going to say if you don't want to come, there's always makeups. And that's your own perspective and opinion, and you won't be judged otherwise. If you feel that you want to stay at home and not come to the meetings until we get through this, especially if you're over the age of 60, that is your call. We have ways to make ups, and we just care that everybody stays healthy. So that's your president's opinion at this point. I'm sure there's others, but so be it. Raffle. Oh, Bob. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I just wanted to take a couple seconds and say that my company actually does in-home care for seniors, so we're doing kind of a service project right now with everything going on. So if you have any seniors that need like a home support plan, we're just going out and serving the community and doing that. Just let me know, because we know the older population is most at risk, so we want to help.
Awesome. Thanks, Karen.
Yep.
That's a great resource. Appreciate that. Okay, Uncle Bob.
I spoke with Dale Drees twice in the last week. Dale is not sick. He's not in any more danger or problem than he was before. He's just having troubles. You know, he has to drag that tank around with him, and it's getting very difficult to get that tank in the truck and get it out and what have you. He also gets tired earlier, so he's been taking a nap in the afternoon. He set up a room in his office at home, so he's really not even going to work. And it's just that he just can't do it physically, and he's doing makeups on the line. So he's not sicker than he was. He just is not able to get around as much, and he's going to see what's happened. You know, he's waiting for a lung, and it's a long wait. So, but I just wanted to let you know that he's okay, but he's not okay. You know, so he'll be back when he can.
Thanks, Bob, for that. Anything else? Okay, who's got the raffle? Oh, wait, we didn't have a greeter. Somebody didn't show up today. Larry.
I'll do it.
Okay. What do we have? What's the prize today?
Today, the prize is a gift certificate to South Mountain Cycle for $20. And we'll have our prodigal son, Mike.
And just so everybody knows, South Mountain Cycle, if you haven't been in there, in the old Owl's Home or the old VFW, they don't just sell bikes. They've got a really awesome little cafe in there with sweet coffee and little pastries and so forth. So this isn't good for like a spare tire or something.
There may be a lot of dead tickets in here because nobody knew we had this level of attendance today. So hopefully you get it on the first shot.
Pressure.
The last 3 minutes.
Blah, blah, blah.
767.
There we go.
Jeff Boyer, congratulations. Rory.
Steve,
Yes.
the Flag Day Committee was supposed to have a meeting this morning with Sue. It looks like it's just Doug and I, so we're gonna be canceling. Okay? If anybody's here for the Flag Day Committee, we'll make arrangements next week.
Cool. On a note of that, Rory, Mike Waddell is doing some good stuff within Club Runner. We're still exploring how deep this thing is. It's an awesome site. There's some stuff happening within the committees and so forth where you're going to be able to go in there and fire emails out directly to committee members. So we're hoping that's going to help on the ease of this kind of stuff, and he'll be in touch on all that. Let Sue know that so that she can go in and shoot an email. And if anybody has questions on Club Runner, John Chishka is very, very welcome to help on that. Hey, Sarge, what do we got?
So is there a specific time this meeting should start? Because we're doing a lot of stuff today, is there a time when it should actually have a president hitting the bell? And
maybe you should move it along then.
7:45.
7:45. So it's a $2 fine for each minute after 7:45?
Oh, is 7:45 written in the bylaws?
In my bylaws, yes. And I advised with my committee, and the committee of 3 said you owe a fine. We had some people who were late. I won't point out any names or any fingers to anybody, but they did pay their fines already. Some people are missing pins. Who's leaving early today? And no hands going up, but I'll sit by the door just in case. We have some happiness today.
If you saw the East Penn Press, you saw that Deb Galbraith did a fantastic job reporting on last week's program for the International Women's Day. So I'll be thanking her personally. Thank you to the committee again. Did a fantastic job, and I think you should be proud of it. And then bragging, my daughter just accepted a offer from Morgan Lewis, who is the 4th most prestigious company of the Fortune 500 companies.
So this is my first time doing a happy dollar, so $5 for, I'm very happy because I coached my 9-year-old son's basketball team this last season and my 12-year-old's basketball team. And we had 2 amazing seasons where with both teams we went 1-21. So my happy dollar is that this season is over. We don't have to think about basketball until next year.
Frank, that had nothing to do with the coaching, did it?
It did not. It did not. I worked very hard.
I'll do, no, I'm fine.
I'm gonna give 3 happy dollars, because one for each year since I've last been here. And it's a pleasure to see all the familiar faces and also some of the new faces.
Third
I hope to be back again.
We miss you, Mike. We'd love to have you back.
I got it, Steve. I got it.
So, as you look across the room, there are a lot of new members since you've been here.
I got it.
This guy, guys, was a model Rotarian. I mean, he ran circles around the best Rotarians, and we would love and be honored to get you back. And that's not just any hot air blowing. I'm being serious.
That's your hot air.
That is.
Alexa.
I have 2 education dollars. You can do fist bumps. You can do the peace sign. You can do jazz hands. If you do a kind of monk sister thing, you gotta shake. Okay. You can also do live long and prosper.
Yeah.
Okay. You can bump feet, hips. Keep practicing.
And washing hands.
Did you have something, Steve?
Yeah, I've got $2 more to give you, Don. My youngest daughter, Morgan, which is Gordon's youngest granddaughter, she started swimming pretty seriously this year, and I have 2 happy dollars for one of each event that she made it into districts for as a freshman. I'm very, very proud of her, and she made it in the 2 events that I actually swam in high school, so it's pretty cool. There's to Morgan.
And one more announcement from me. I put the money in already. I don't know if you saw it in the trumpet. At the end, we can announce little things. What's that section called?
I call it Rotary and Beyond.
Rotary and Beyond. So if you're doing something outside of Rotary and you want to announce, we'll put it in for you. it costs you some happy dollars. So next week when you see me, this will be gone. Okay?
Your brain or the?
Brain's never been there.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah, brain was gone. I wake up every morning, it's all over the pillow. Okay, it just straightens out every night. Yes, I will be bald. I'm shaving for the brave. You can go on to my link if you want. I have some forms here if you need it. I need to raise some more money. My goal was $2,500 this year. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Good job. All right, who wants the mic? Lexa? Bill, you want to take it over?
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Paul Harris Day. Cindy and I talked about this program, and as the particularly members have been around for a while, we've done a number of foundation programs, and we decided to kind of step it up this time and do something a little bit different. So we're going to approach it from a different standpoint. We're going to go through a program, and at the end of it, there's going to be recognitions. I should add to the comment about Joanne. Mario Stewart is also not here. He's apparently laid up at home, which is kind of interesting when you consider he's an accountant. So it must be interesting this time of year to be homesick. But anyhow, we're going to do something a little different if you want to pull that up on the screen. So that leads to the question, who was Paul Harris? And if you have never seen this before, there's an interesting, it's almost like a comic book about the remarkable Paul Harris. And I'm going to quickly go through it because I think it's important to understand why we're all here. He was born in Wisconsin, and at the age of 3, his parents gave him up to his grandparents because of financial challenges. You think about that for a moment. At the age of 3, and he never lived with his parents again. So he was born in Wisconsin, ended up in Vermont where his grandparents raised him. He was a troublemaker and a drifter, and I'll hesitate to say it, but you could probably think at the time he was around, he might have been considered a juvenile delinquent. I'm serious. He was a troublemaker. He left school. He was actually thrown out of one school, so he did a lot of things. Eventually, somewhere there, he went to law school and got a law degree. So that's kind of interesting that he transitioned from essentially it was like a juvenile delinquent to going to law school. When he graduated from law school, the speaker said, "You folks are young. Get out and sow your wild seeds. Do whatever you want to do before you settle down." And he took that literally. So he traveled around the world, did the following things. He was a cowboy. He was an actor. He was a teacher. He was a hotel night clerk. He was a reporter. He was a salesman, plus 5 or 6 others. So as I say, he eventually decided to settle down. He went to Chicago. Now, you've heard a lot of things about Chicago. You've heard about Al Capone and all that kind of stuff, but just a couple quick comments. One of the visitors said that if the most noisy place is hell, Chicago is hell. It was also, if you remember, up in Sinclair, called it the jungle. So if you think about it, there's a Midwestern boy who is in New England, eventually moves into Chicago. You can imagine the traumatic shock of living in a city like that. He ended up in the city. He was lonely. He had trouble settling down, and eventually started putting some thoughts together, and I'll just take a moment to kind of thread his life in terms of what he was doing. By the way, his law practice was to help people in bankruptcy and ones that suffered from embezzlement. So if you kind of thread his life together and start thinking about this, at 3 years old, he sees his parents. That's pretty young, but at some point he recognized that his parents came up because of financial problems. All the things he did, he was, as they say, in the trenches. When you're a farmer, when you're doing those kinds of things, you're not hobnobbing with the top or the cream of the crop, if you will, in terms of society. You're dealing with everyday people. So it was pretty obvious to him. He also is dealing with people in bankruptcy and victims of embezzlement. Those are people that obviously have a lot of challenges. So he's in Chicago. He starts traveling and goes to different churches, whatever, Catholic, Presbyterian, synagogue, you name it. He started going around to different churches. He also started going around to different events because he was lonely and wanted to make some connections. Things began to kind of like formulate in his mind, and I'll digress for a moment and say, anybody that has listened to Yanni, and it's the kind of person that could be cursing at you, and his mellow, melodic voice, you would accept it as well. He's really great what he said. He said something one time before one of his songs that I thought was very interesting in light of Paul Harris. He said, every great thing in this world started with the thought of one person. Every great thing in the world started with the thought of one person. So if you thread together Paul Harris's life and all the things he dealt with, he came up with the idea of getting together with other business associates. He started with 3 other people, so there were 4 of them. They started meeting. Big part of it was the camaraderie and the fact that they were lonely, and Chicago was a really scary place to live. But over time, they started meeting regularly. They had fines for misdeeds. Think about that for a moment. They used only first names, which back in that time was highly unusual. Everything was Mr. and Mrs. They used strictly first names. And they called it Rotary because the 4 of them took turns having the meeting rotate from location to location. So if you think about that for a moment and think about that one thought of somebody, the rest is history. And I don't have to go into the details of where Rotary is right now, but you think about that one gentleman who had one thought a long, long time ago, and we now have a massive, massive organization that impacts this entire world. And I thought that was a pretty impressive thing. So Paul Harris wasn't the angel you might think he was. In later years, he actually straightened things out. But in formative years, he was apparently a real challenge that everybody dealt with. So, there's always hope. Right? Okay, what do your foundation dollars mean? Is that what's next? Arch Clump, okay. Good point. We're still doing some last minute coordination here. The Rotary Foundation, which eventually evolved later on, was an idea again. One thought by one person. Arch Clump decided to recognize Paul Harris by starting the Paul Harris Society, the Paul Harris Foundation, everything related to Paul Harris, with the idea that as Rotarians donated money, there would be a recognition and acknowledgement of the person who created the great organization. Okay, the Rotary Foundation transforms your gifts into service projects that change lives, both close to home and around the world. It was founded more than 100 years ago, and to date has spent $4 billion with a B. So if you look at that impact, it's unbelievable.
So what we always like to do is, we say all this stuff about the Rotary Foundation, but what does that mean to us here in our Emmaus Club? And as we were doing this, we are amazing. Maybe? So, over the last several years, our Emmaus Rotary Club has been the largest contributor to the foundation within our entire district of 47 clubs. Since 2014-15, and we know there's more, but we couldn't get the history, our club alone has contributed over $161,000 to the foundation. But that doesn't even count our donations to Shelter Box and Polio Plus, which our club gives to every year. Our average capita, that means per person in our club, is $280. On average in our district, it's $119. Now that's year to date, which is going to be a little higher because we're not at year end. So, put that in perspective. We always harp, can you give more money? Let's see what that means in terms of what we've actually done. Okay, our contributions to the Rotary Foundation in our club alone, because of the grants and projects we do, have contributed over $453,000 in impact locally around the world. On your tables, I'd like you to look. There is sheets for both a history of our local projects and international projects, and there's not even all of them. Bob Halsey actually started this years ago. We then had committees vary with this. When you add them both up, okay, and that's not even our whole history. We have done over 100 projects in our world, locally and internationally. That is amazing. On the local side, we have really done a lot of things where we just participate and do community service. But we also use our foundation monies for several projects, including ambulance equipment, including redoing the band shelter in Lower Macungie, in terms of redoing local playgrounds. Our current food feeding project for East Penn School District was part of a Rotary grant. Redoing things at 6th Street Shelter in Allentown was also part of a Rotary grant. This coming year, for Lexa's presidency, we're in the midst of, all of you may know that there's a new community center being built in Emmaus, and several of us went down there, and we as Rotary need to be involved at the beginning in that project. We are going to apply for a grant, and guess what it's going to be? We're going to help build the first toilet units for that organization, which is what Rotary did, and you'll hear more of that. On the international side, our dollars have really had an impact. We had, several years ago, we had, many of you remember Gul Asnani. He had contacts in India. We did one of the largest projects, not only in our district, but in our zone. It netted over $323,000 of microcredit projects to help women do business in India. We have also participated, and I'm going to just tell you 3 other firsts. When the group study exchange program, for those of you who remember, stopped, something called vocational training team came into effect. The Blue Belt Club we partnered with to have the first maternal child health project in Uganda, and we had teams of, with Drexel University, we had teams of people from Uganda come here, and we have sent 3 times back and forth to Uganda. As a result of that, statistics with Makerere University in Uganda have now shown that the birth-death rate in Uganda is improving. We also participate in the first joint project with Engineers Without Borders when they started a project in Sierra Leone, drilling wells and improving a school. Our club initiated the first vocational training team in the country of Zambia with literacy, focusing on science and education. So when we talk about giving your $1 a week or $5 a week, we are getting our money back here, as you can see, almost 4 times, because we apply for grants and we also do volunteer work. So that kind of puts it in perspective, and that's why those of you who are part of the Paul Harris Society even help make more of an impact.
Thank you, Cindy. And just to add 2 more stats or statistics to that. First off, as far as our club for this year, we are now at 88% of Steve's goal. And if you think of the calendar, we're two-thirds of the way through the year, so we're ahead. Having said that, we always want to exceed the goal. So if we can go above and beyond, that'd be great. But today, we are ahead of the goal. Thanks to those that have contributed. To those that have not, please step up. If you have any questions at all, let me know. Second thing, that's
one thing I just want you to know, in almost all cases, we have given over $20,000 a year. Steve wanted to make sure we could achieve our goal, so if you haven't considered, we know we can do it. We always have.
the second thing is, as far back as I was able to go, and I suspect maybe for a long, long time, this is the thing that when I do presentations at other clubs, because you have clubs with only 12 members, the thing that levels the playing field is what is the per capita contributions. Our club, at least in the last 5 years, has been well in excess of the district average. In some years, we're 2 and 3 times the district average on a per capita basis. So that means that each individual member in this club steps up to some level, and I think that's pretty impressive. When we were putting this program together, I reached out to some of the members on the committee to ask them if they'd like to be part of the program. And as many of you, I believe, are aware, Woody and Fran spend the summer in Florida. Woody was very disappointed he couldn't be here, but he sent me an email and gave me permission to read it. Now, if you think back for a moment, you'll remember not too long ago, we recognized both of them as being major donors to the foundation. So it's in their blood, it's in their DNA. They believe very, very thoroughly in the foundation. I'll read what he sent me. We both support the Rotary Foundation because of its worldwide effect to assist in so many needed projects to benefit the health and nutrition of citizens around the world. The Rotary Foundation also allows us, the Emmaus Rotary Club, obtain matching grants from the Rotary Foundation to assist in helping to work with projects in our own communities or assist with projects in other parts of the world. We encourage any member that has ability to become a Paul Harris member to do so. It will give them a good feeling when they realize their gifts are helping to make a better, educated, healthier, and more peaceful world. So there's Woody's words. I can't put it any better. That's his personal reason for stepping up and supporting the foundation. And again, I would encourage any of you to do that. For newer members, and I've said this many times, if you have any questions at all about the foundation, please ask me or approach me at some point. I'm generally here by 7 in the morning. So, Paul Harris recognition. First thing we wanted to do is provide a list, and this kind of goes along with the idea of our high per capita giving. If you look at the list of the Paul Harris Fellows that are in this club, just quickly looking, for example, Paul Harris Fellow, the first level, we have 15. Paul Harris Fellow plus 8, that's 0. And what am I looking at here?
Top to bottom.
It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, I know, but the 8 has a 0 behind it. We don't have any.
I thought that's me.
Yeah.
I could be a typo, I pay a fine.
Okay. let me say, I don't know my notes, let me say, at the top level of Paul Harris, you go through all the way up, and when you get to Paul Harris plus 9, at that point you get into major donor. We have at least a half a dozen people at Paul Harris plus 9, plus 8, and even at not plus 9, so I'm not sure what's going on there. But my point being is, if you look at that array of Paul Harris recognitions, we have members in this club have stepped up big time for many, many years to support the foundation and ultimately become Paul Harris Fellows.
It's supposed to be 9.
Okay.
They're right next to each other. 0 keyboard.
Yeah, 0.
Good guess. So at this point then, if Cindy will put the list up, we're going to be recognizing a number of Paul Harris Fellows. In a couple cases, maybe one, I think it's a new Paul Harris Fellow, which would be the PHF at the first level, and then several at different levels, and there we go. Okay. Don Blows, and as I call your name, if you please come up, and then Jim's going to come up and help with the pinning. We have all the pins here. Don Blows is a Paul Harris Fellow plus 1, and as I've said many times before, each incremental one is another 1,000. So if you think about that for a moment, Don Blows, Mario, who unfortunately couldn't be here, he's also laid up, and Deanne have given $2,000. Jim Conquest is a Paul Harris Fellow plus 2, I guess he's going to pin himself. Craig Reber's a Paul Harris Fellow plus 2. Mike Gibson, and let me follow up with what Steve said. Mike, if you'd like to come up. As everybody has heard several times, Mike used to be a Rotarian. So imagine my shock when I'm in the office and Shelley walks over and lays an envelope on my desk and I open it up and there's a Paul Harris for Mike Gibson. I'm thinking, this has got to be a typo. So I called Mike and I said, Mike, just want to let you know we're doing a program. I said, I'm kind of curious. He said, you know what, Bill? He said, I continue to donate to the foundation. Speaking of DNA, there's a gentleman that has a DNA in him to support the foundation even when he's not a Rotarian. So I found that noteworthy. Gary Rohrbach is a Paul Harris Fellow plus 4. Joanne, unfortunately, who can also not be here, is a Paul Harris Fellow plus 4. And Alicia Ruiz-Orban is a Paul Harris Fellow plus 6. So we have a total So take a moment until everybody's pinned. Does anybody have any questions at this point? As they say in school, there are no dumb questions. I've been to several Rotary clubs, and I'm amazing sometimes the questions they ask, but I do answer them very diplomatically. I don't look at it and think, that was a dumb question. Rick, you were first.
Bill, how do you get to the $1,000? Do you have to give $1,000?
You can do that any way you want to, Rick. So for example, one of the things that you could do, and I'm not going to give these, but somewhere around, if you go to Rotary Direct, which is basically connecting to either a savings account, checking account, charge card, whatever, you choose. If you put roughly $80-some a month, at the end of 1 year you have $1,000. You can write a check for $1,000. You can donate to E-Ray, and even greater amounts than E-Ray, but if you think of the basic E-Ray, it's $100 per year. You do that for 10 years, you get your first 1,000. So the answer to your question, Rick, is you can do it any way you want. It's pretty much up to the individual Rotarian. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I did. Okay, Mark Earl, who I just literally got his this morning, is a Paul Harris +4. My apologies, Mark. I apologized to him this morning. I said, and I goofed up. I said, your name's not going to be on the screen. Trust me, I did not forget about you. And then I proceeded to do that anyhow. But Lexa literally handed me his Paul Harris when I walked in this morning. So my apologies, Mark, for forgetting your name, even though you weren't on the screen. Yes, Lexa.
Paul Harris Fellows, Paul Harris Fellowship. Society.
Yeah, okay. I was going to talk about the society in a moment because we have one of those. But yeah, Paul Harris Fellow is basically a recognition, and I stress recognition. This is not an award, it's not a prize, it's a recognition that you have supported, you individually, whoever it is, have supported the foundation. And with that, if we get one more round of applause, we're going to do one more thing.
All right, that was great. Awesome, thank you.
Thank you and congratulations. Okay, the next thing in the program before Cindy puts the video on, it goes to Lex's question. And again, it's confusing, I admit it, there's a lot of stuff going on, but we'll focus on just this thing. The Paul Harris Society, unlike the Paul Harris Fellow we just talked about. Paul Harris Society is, quote unquote, an acknowledgement of those Rotarians who stepped up to the level to say, I will donate $1,000 a year in perpetuity to the foundation. So it's someone who has stepped up. It involves the recognition by way of a chevron. And I'm very proud to invite Jim up because he has just recently stepped up to the Paul Harris Society. Have a round of applause. In the interest of time, I'll let Jim put it on, but this is a PHS, which is called a chevron. If you see a Rotarian with this hanging below the pin, do me a favor and go up and shake that Rotarian's hand because that Rotarian has committed to $1,000 a year for the foundation. It's really above and beyond. So Jim,
Congratulations. The handshake this year.
So Jim, congratulations and thank you for your support.
Before we leave, let's just focus on what we do in the foundation.
Shared a vision. There's that one thought by one person. So speaking of now, and following up on Steve's comment earlier, there is no doubt in my mind the current challenge that faces this world, and if you're not aware, it is now officially a pandemic. There's no doubt in my mind Rotary is going to have a very integral support part in this whole thing. So when we talk about now we have a tremendous challenge throughout this world. Rotary, among many other organizations, is going to be a big part of addressing it. So your support is sorely needed, particularly right now. Steve, it's back to you.
Great, thanks very much. Lexa, I think we're holding off on the cards. We're going to move that to April 2nd. Congratulations to the Paul Harris Fellows and to Jim as Paul Harris Society. That's impressive. I mean, that's really awesome. Thanks for all you guys do. I just want to make a quick note back to what I said earlier about swimming. So I'm in the coach's office 2 weeks ago, and they have all of the state champions that were ever from Emmaus High School up on the wall. And I'm coming by and I go, who's that handsome looking guy? Jim Ritter was actually the state champion in the 50 freestyle back in like 76. So I have to say, I mean, I knew you swam and we've always talked about it, but you never boasted that you were the state champ. I mean, come on, man, that's impressive stuff. So that's kind of neat. It's neat. You should go in there. It's pretty nostalgic to see everybody. Chad, Dirk Crandall, Charlie Norelli, all the old-time Emmaus swimmers, they're all there. Right.
If you have a chance to have lunch with Jim, he will boast that he can beat all those guys.
All right, well, let's close the meeting. If everybody could rise, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For food feeding, we're going right now. We have Jim Palmquist, Eric, Alicia, Dee, and Gary. Thank you.